As we finally started to have some warm days and I've been outside, I've noticed that the honeybees are out starting to work. The clover's blooming, the flowers are blooming, and the honeybees are busy at work. So I thought we'd learn about honeybees because they definitely are busy, busy, busy bees these days.
The honeybee is one of the most collaborative insects in the world. Each hive is comprised of thousands of bees working together in order to build and sustain a colony. Within the colony, each bee has a specific role to play, a job, if you will. These are jobs like foraging for food, tending to young larvae, and building a honeycomb. But with a brain about the size of a sesame seed, it begs the question, how do bees know what specific job they need to do in order to keep balance in the hive? The answer is written into the genetic makeup of each bee. And it starts with the queen bee, who has the unique ability to designate the sex of her children, which plays a pivotal role in their future. If the queen wants to lay a female egg, she will fertilize the egg by releasing spermatozoa that is stored in the spermatheca, which sits behind her ovaries. The spermatheca is filled during her first week of life, when she mates with up to 20 drones, or male bees. If the queen wants to lay a male egg, she will not release any spermatozoa as the egg leaves the ovaries. And drones have a singular job. That job is to mate with queens from other colonies to propagate the species. When they're not trying to mate, they eat leisurely from the honey reserves and wait for a queen to go on her nuptial flight. Female bees, or worker bees, do literally everything else. They keep the cells clean, care for the larvae, build cells, tend to the queen, store honey, forage, pollinate, guard the nest, and even feed male bees honey if they're begging for it. Each bee knows what to do because their hormones activate the part of their genetic makeup that tells them what jobs they have to tackle and when they have to tackle them. They go through 4 phases of jobs before dying. In phase 1, bees go to work immediately after they emerge from metamorphosis, about 3 weeks after they're born. They begin cleaning the cells from which they emerged. After about 3 days, their hormones shift them into nurse bee mode. In this job, they feed the young brood that succeeds them. This lasts for about a week. Then phase 3 kicks in, and the workers become general handymen, moving farther away from the center of the hive and doing things like building honeycomb, storing food, and guarding the nest entrances. This lasts about a week. The final phase is the most dangerous. It's the foraging phase, where workers leave the nest to find pollen to bring home and feed the colony. This phase starts around day 41 and lasts until about day 50. After a short life of constant work, most workers will leave the nest as death approaches. The corpses of those that die inside the hive are carried out by undertaker bees. It's a thankless life for the worker bee, but this collaboration and process has made them one of the most successful superorganisms in nature.
So we're going to learn some fun facts about honeybees. Honeybees are super important pollinators for flowers, fruits, and vegetables. This means that they help other plants grow. Bees transfer pollen between the male and female parts, allowing the plants to grow seeds and fruit. This is a picture of a bee showing how pollination works. Step 1, the bee visits a flower to collect nectar, and pollen sticks to the bee on its pollen collector hind legs. Step 2, the bee flies away with pollen still stuck to its body. And in step 3, the bee lands on another flower of the same type, bringing the pollen from the previous flower with it. This pollinates the second flower and allows for fertilization and reproduction of the flower. And the same goes for fruits and vegetables. So this is a picture of man-made hives. But honeybees can actually build their colonies in the wild, on a tree limb, under the eave of a house, in a hollow log, wherever they can find a convenient, somewhat dry, protected space. This is commonly what we think of when we think of a honeybee hive, or the man-made hives. So there's 3 types of bees in a hive. The worker bees is the first type. Workers are all female, and their roles are to forage for food, which is pollen and nectar from flowers, build and protect the hive, clean and circulate air by beating their wings. Workers are the only bees that most people ever see flying around outside the hive. Drones are the second type of bee. Drones are the male bees, and their purpose is to mate with the new queen. Several hundred live in each hive during the spring and summer, but come winter, when the hive goes into survival mode, the drones are kicked out. The third type of bee in the hive is the one queen bee. One queen runs the whole hive. Her job is to lay the eggs that will spawn the hive's next generation of bees. The queen also produces chemicals that guide the behavior of the other bees. This is a picture of the differences in the appearance of the 3 types of bees. You can see that the worker bee has a V-shaped bottom, and they are all females. The drones have a flat bottom. They're all males. And the one queen bee is much larger than the workers or the drones. Fun fact number 3. If the queen bee dies, workers will create a new queen by selecting a young larva, the newly hatched baby insect, and feeding it a special food called royal jelly. This enables the larva to develop into a fertile queen.
It is the stuff kings and queens are made of, a truly noble substance from which only greatness is bred, the food of the gods. I of course speak of royal jelly. All bees more or less embark on their journey of life the same, as identical eggs laid side by side in individual hexagonal cells. But the pampering begins early for a future queen bee, with the construction of her very own crib, or queen cup. Normal larvae are only rationed small amounts of royal jelly before weaning off onto honey and pollen, but in the luxurious holding cell of a potential queen, the larva is bathed in royal jelly to continually feast on the divine substance for an extended period of time. This abundance of special nutrients is responsible for her development into a sexually mature queen bee, whereas all other peasants beneath her emerge as sterile workers. It is good to be queen, so good in fact, people are after her royal jelly and harvest this special fluid to produce skincare products and nutritional supplements. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and giddy up.
Fun fact number 4. So what are these buzzing insects most famous for? Honey! Delicious honey, of course. But did you know that they produce honey as food stores for the hive during winter? Luckily for us, these efficient little workers produce 2 to 3 times more honey than they need, so we get to enjoy the tasty treat too.
I feel bees on me. Oh! Is that guy biting my arm? That's a
It's
mosquito.
a mosquito.
Maya, come look at the big bee. You know what bees do?
What?
They're going to land on these flowers, and then they're going to land on these flowers and pollinate them, and then we're going to get all kinds of vegetables. I know it's a little early to teach you about the birds and the bees, but we're going to learn how bees make honey. Did you wear this bee outfit purposely because we're going to see bees today?
Yes.
What about your sister?
Yes.
Layla?
She's a bee too.
This is apparently one of the longest running 4th generation honey making families. Let's go say hi.
Hi.
Good morning.
Well, hello, and welcome to Dickie Bee Honey.
Thank
Look at
you.
our 2 little beautiful honeybee princesses here today.
We brought our own honeybees.
We're going to teach you a little bit about the honeybees and see how busy they are collecting pollen and honey today.
Let's go see what's going on in there.
This is a frame of bees we just went over to pick up. Whoa.
Whoa.
So you can see they're very busy.
Oh, I can hear them buzzing.
Yeah.
They are busy bees.
So this is actually them busy at work. Feel the beeswax, push in on it. Feels really cool. And smell it.
Smell it?
Mm-hmm.
What does it smell like, man? Smell like anything?
Smells like honey.
Oh, it smells like honey a little bit.
So the wonderful thing about bee pollen is it's the only superfood that we can survive on. It carries all of our 22 amino acids, all of our vitamins, and all of our minerals.
Pollen?
Pollen. Because it builds up your immunities against asthma, allergies, and hay fever. And it'll taste differently, and it just depends on what pollens they collect from what flowers. Got a tendency to maybe be a tad bit bitter.
It's the aftertaste that's like, it's
Hey,
like
can we stand here? You know where these
powdery.
come from?
Woody.
Oh, I can tell that it's pollen though. It's like licking flowers, basically. We're gonna see the honey making.
See how they make honey?
Come on in, guys. So this is our production room. This is where we pour all the honey.
Just pull this down, you ready?
Yes.
Whoa.
The only food that'll never go bad is honey.
Beautiful honey. You smell that?
Honey.
Does that smell good? There you go.
Thank you. Good job, Scott.
Maya, we'll make something delicious with this.
Also, another product that comes from the hive is propolis. Smell that.
You're scaring me.
Isn't it great?
Is this poop?
Is this poop?
Nope. This is how, if you're sick, you gotta go to the doctor. Bees can't go to the doctor. They take propolis. So they coat their hive with it to kill any viruses, bacteria, or fungus.
Do you use this to fight off any diseases?
We dilute it in alcohol, make a tincture out of it, and I'll take 2 to 3 drops every day. But when I'm sick, I'll take like 20 drops for about 4 days.
It's like a bee remedy.
This is the bee remedy. We call it the bee's penicillin.
Okay, girls, Daddy's gonna go check out the bees. There's over 1 million bees over there. I lift this right off.
Yeah.
No fear. They smell that. They smell the fear.
This
Are
is
you
where they're
touching
going to
them?
be putting the honey, yeah.
Can I touch them?
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord.
All right, Scott, what I want you to do is put your fingers down here and just pick that frame up.
Okay.
Just
Oh,
go
come
nice
on.
and slow.
Right. This seems like a really good idea.
So this is a typical honey super.
I feel bees on me. Oh! Is that guy biting my arm? That's a mosquito.
I think the mosquitoes are worse than the honeybees. So
You
this
got that
super's
one?
coming off.
Oh, my.
The queen is usually in the middle.
You've got to be kidding me. That is outrageous.
There you go. Now you pick them up. So grab them the other way.
That's a drone.
That's
I'll go
a
out
drone.
and try to mate with another queen.
Yep. This is where the queen will live with her babies. There's the queen.
Oh, there she is. Wow. Everyone moves out of her way.
Yeah, you see that, eh? So right now we have a pollen trap over here, Scott.
Oh, my Lord.
So that's bee pollen.
And how does it fall off of their legs?
The bees come up through the screen into the brood chamber,
Yeah.
and it basically just lodges it off them while they climb through.
Obviously, some of them are visiting different flowers because it's different color pollen.
Look at all the different colors, yeah?
That's so cool.
So this is a brand new hive.
Guys, this is what I would do at my house.
Yes. Look at all the glistening honey in here. You can poke your hive tool right in there, Scott.
Put this guy right in there.
Yeah. You want to taste some real honey?
Wow. Oh, doesn't get any fresher. I'm really impressed with the bees, and it's awesome to see how, with our organic garden, this is how things get pollinated. I've never stood in the middle of almost 2 million bees like this and been so calm in my life.
You're doing very well. I'm impressed.
They're in my hair.
Doing your hair.
That's
Not
not
the hair.
That's
Okay.
not drawing.
Cut.
Cut. We are excited because how are our broccoli?
Fun fact number 5. Honeybees are fabulous flyers. They fly at a speed of around 25 kilometers per hour and beat their wings 200 times per second. Fun fact number 6. Each bee has 170 odor receptors, which means they have one serious sense of smell. They use this to communicate within the hive and to recognize different types of flowers when looking for food. Fun fact number 7. The average worker bees live just 5 to 6 weeks. During this time, she'll produce around 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey. Fun fact number 8. The queen can live up to 5 years. She is busiest in the summer months when she can lay up to 2,500 eggs a day.
Hi everyone, I'm Maddie and welcome back to my channel. Now if you saw my last beekeeping video, then you know how beekeepers take honey from a hive. But a big question is, how do bees make honey? Now by the end of this video I'm going to tell you, but I'm warning you, it's a little bit gross and you might never think of honey the same way ever again. Not all bees make honey, but these are honeybees, and they make honey because it's their main source of energy, it's their food. And as beekeepers, we encourage the bees to make a little bit more honey than they actually need, so we can take the extra stuff and enjoy it for ourselves, whilst giving them a safe place to live. But to make the honey, the bees need one main ingredient, and that's something called nectar, which you can find in flowers. When you see a busy bee out and about flying from flower to flower, they are very likely collecting nectar. And nectar is a sugary water that's produced by the flowers to help them attract pollinators, but that's another video. And these bees are the worker bees, the female bees who do all of the hard work. To get to the nectar, a worker bee will slurp it out of a flower using its really long tongue, and then it will store it in its second stomach, called a crop or a honey stomach. Yes, that's right, bees have 2 stomachs. And what's amazing is that to fill that honey stomach, one bee might have to visit up to 1,000 flowers. Feeling pretty heavy, the bee makes its way back to the hive, but they've already started work turning the nectar into honey. Inside that honey stomach is a special mixture called digestive enzymes, and these help to break down the nectar to make it thicker into what we know as honey. But one bee can't do this all by themselves, they need a bit of help. Okay guys, we've reached the really gross bit. When that bee full of nectar returns to the hive, it's going to vomit up the contents of its honey stomach into the mouth of another bee. And then that bee will vomit the contents of its honey stomach into the mouth of another bee. And so on, and so on, and so on. So honey is basically bee sick, bee vomit, bee bath, bee throw up, whatever it is you want to call it. This vomit chain might sound kind of icky, but actually it's really clever, because every time the nectar goes into the honey stomach of another bee, it mixes with those digestive enzymes, which help to break down the nectar, get rid of some of the water and thicken it up, so it becomes honey. The last bee in the chain chucks up what's now a sticky sweet liquid into one of these little holes. This is a frame, and inside you have wax honeycomb, and that's made up of lots and lots of cells. But when you look closely, you can see that each cell is a hexagon shape. But you can think of these as storage cupboards for bees, because this is where they keep their honey. But the honey isn't quite ready yet. It's still pretty watery at this stage. So when it's inside one of these cells, a couple of bees will stand over it, and they fan their wings really hard to create a draft. And that extra little bit of air, that wind, helps to dry out what's left of the water, leaving only the thick, sticky, sweet sweet stuff that we know as honey. And the very last thing the bees do is just cap off the cell. They use a little bit more wax to create a lid, which keeps the honey safe inside until they're ready to use it.
So, there you go. That is how bees make honey. If you want to see a video of me and Mum taking honey from a hive, then click on this video just here.
Fun fact number 9. Honeybees are also brilliant boogiers. To share information about the best food sources, they perform their waggle dance. When the worker returns to the hive, it moves in a figure 8 and waggles its body to indicate the direction of the food source. Pretty cool, huh?
Honeybee workers are able to send complex messages to one another. In the wild, they sometimes nest out in the open, but mankind has persuaded them to live and store their honey in hives. The colony's heart is its queen. She is just a little bigger than her subjects and mother of them all. In spring, when food stocks are low, the workers get busy collecting nectar. They have a remarkable method of telling one another where to find the most productive flowers. It's called the waggle dance. This returning bee has just found a new source of nectar and is going to tell others in the hive about it. First, she gathers an audience. To do that, she climbs on her sisters' backs and vibrates her abdomen. Now that she's got their attention, she begins her dance, using a code of movements that tell her fellow workers where her discovery lies. The duration of her waggle indicates the distance to the nectar source. The longer the waggle, the further the flower. And the angle at which she dances across the comb tells them the direction to the flower in relation to the sun. Her instructions are remarkably accurate and can pinpoint the location of a nectar source over 6 kilometers away. Some of her fellow workers set off immediately to find it. In one short season, the colony's workers will visit up to 500 million flowers and will make around 90 kilograms of honey. That is sufficient to sustain the whole colony through the coming winter when there is no nectar to be had.
Not so fun fact number 10. Sadly, over the past 15 years, colonies of bees have been disappearing, and the reason remains unknown. Referred to as colony collapse disorder, billions of honeybees across the world are leaving their hives never to return. In some regions, up to 90% of bees have disappeared. One bee colony can pollinate 300 million flowers each day. Bees in turn pollinate fruits, nuts, and vegetables, pollinating about 90% of the world's food supply. Be informed. Honeybees play an integral role in maintaining our food supply. Due to colony collapse disorder, the sudden die-off of honeybee colonies, beekeepers are working hard to protect this species and educate their communities on the value of bees. Check out the sweet statistics from American Beekeeping Federation. Honeybees contribute over $14 billion to to the value of U.S. crop production. 60 pounds of honey produces 1 pound of beeswax. Some crops, including blueberries and cherries, are 90% dependent on honeybee pollination. A good prolific queen can lay up to 3,000 eggs per day. 2.4 million colonies are estimated in the U.S. today, 2/3 of which travel the country each year pollinating crops and producing honey and beeswax. And this is a big one. 1 out of every 3 bites of food Americans eat is directly or indirectly derived from honeybee pollination. So they may be small, but they do big things for us. A note from the author. From the days of my childhood watching my grandfather work his beehives, I've been mesmerized by honeybees. To me, they're one of God's most remarkable creations. The more I learn about them, the more I see the Creator. The submission of the worker bees and the drones to the queen, and the collaboration of the hive as they work, thrive, flourish, and accomplish its sole mission makes me think of Christ as the head of the church, and how we as believers should function much in the same way as a working hive with a purpose. And honey, it's a display of nature's work at its finest, in its finest, purest form. Honey's always been valued by man for its antiseptic and anti-inflammatory properties, not to mention its perfect sweetness. The Bible speaks of a land flowing with milk and honey as a reference to God's utmost blessings. Honey makes me think of one of my favorite verses. Whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things. That's in Philippians 4:8. Take time today to marvel in the intricate world around you. Think on the good things and enjoy the little blessings we overlook every day, like the honeybee. And let the honeybee remind you that God is in perfect control and He'll continue to take care of us. This would be a great coloring page if you have a way of printing this. And I hope you've enjoyed learning about the honeybee. They are definitely remarkable little creatures.